This episode is brought to you by Honda. When you test drive the all-electric Prologue SUV, there's a lot that could impress you about it. There's the generous passenger space, the clean, thoughtful design, and the intuitive technology. But out of everything, what you'll really love most is that it's a Honda. Visit honda.com/EV to see offers.
This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now, from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
And this half hour brought to you by our good friends at Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, life, business, boat, motorcycle, RV, Medicare products. They do a great job of making sure you're fully insured and doing everything they can to save you money. It's all from the pros at Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. We bring in now the outstanding Mark Wogenrich. Sir, welcome back to the show. Great to have you with us.
As always, appreciate it, Steve. Thanks so much.
Well, here it is. It's the off season.
What's that word?
Is there really an off season anymore, Mark?
It's hysterical. I had an opportunity to interview James Franklin a couple of weeks ago. He told me this really funny story about how he still gets questions from parents and just even, just football fans. You'll see him downtown or something, and they'll say, "So what do you do in the off season?" And he rolls his eyes and he has to patiently explain what off season. So, yeah, it exhausts me. I can't even imagine what it's like for him and for college football. People actually in the business, they're exhausting.
And it's exhausting to me in part because the NCAA has done a horrible job of the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they don't seem to take the pros into consideration when they put these calendars together as to how they do things. That's me.
Yeah, I mean, with everything. I mean, just with everything from anything from scheduling, how they schedule their seasons, to how they schedule their off seasons, to what they do with high school kids and what they're allowing high school kids for recruits and recruiting in general and the portal and even just like the meetings and everything that they can't get out of their own way in kind of building a consensus around the sport because there's just no central figure to any of this. So I think, as you said, the NCAA being what passes, I guess, for a central figure as a membership organization in which it seems like all the members want to, extract themselves from it, they just continue to trip over themselves with these issues over and over and over.
No question about it. So, look, with all these issues in place, portal, NIL, we know the House settlement is there, but it hasn't been completely approved yet. When you sat down to think about what the best solutions could be for the sport, what are some of the ideas you've come up with?
Oh, man, I wish I had some really good ideas because I'd sell them.
Yeah.
Just start a consulting firm and do this. I think this, the idea of a commission, absent the political factor, be it a president's commission or a congressionally organized commission, or even just a commission formed by the stakeholders of college sports, it seems to me like that there needs to be a place that it starts from there. There needs to be, and maybe I'm just thinking like in terms of football, that you just spin football off and take revenue from it, licensing fees or whatever, to help pay the athletic departments pay for their other sports because football is just such a behemoth. But there needs to be some sort of central figure, central body, commission, person, whatever, that can make rules for college football in general. Because what we have now, we still have regional bodies, just pounding their chests and lobbying for their own concerns. You don't see that anywhere else. And like the professional game, you never see like the NFC East saying, well, we really think we should get 2 playoff spots.
Right.
It's just not done. But yet you have these regional bodies that still control what's now a national game. So that, to me, I just still think that something central has to come, that has to be put in place, and then the rules flow from that.
Look, I think at some point you have. I mean, I've thought about this for a while. I think at some point you have to have some sort of collective bargaining done between
Absolutely.
the players
and
between.
That comes from, but who negotiates that?
Right.
Are 5 conferences going to negotiate collective bargaining?
No.
5 different rules. So again, that will flow from like a central organization.
Right. That's right. The central organization will make it flow. Mm-hmm. I also think that you're going to have to be smart about negotiating it for football and negotiating it for men's basketball, and then other thing, you can't negotiate everything for 833 athletes at Penn State. It's going to have to be separated along the way because each one has their own issues.
Absolutely, and I think one of the interesting things that I remember reading about last year during the Olympics, it was just how much football essentially pays for the United States Olympic program. Maybe not directly,
right,
but football funds college sports, and college sports is a singular funding component of the U.S. Olympic enterprise. I mean, where would track and swimming? I mean, where would the U.S. Olympic program be without college track and swimming? They're funded by football. So when you have one sport that is paying not only for a bunch of other varsity sports, but also the United States, in part the United States Olympic program, that sport has to be treated differently than the other sports. And that's why I said, I think what is going to come to at some point, again, maybe we're just spinning football out, college football out on its own, and perhaps college basketball even there too, but maybe college basketball can remain as part of an organizing structure, and then football, again, we can just license things to help fund all these other sports, because I think it's imperative that college football doesn't lose or college sports doesn't lose its identity to college football. It can't become that. I mean, we've already invested this. We're too far down the line in United States universities where athletics are just such a big component of them that I think we can't go to the European model and just have governing bodies fund that. This is what we do. And now that we're going to separate, a lot of the finances of college football, there still has to be an element that they can pay for that they can help fund those sports and retain those sports without cutting them completely.
Well, I mean, here's the statement that among statements that I don't think fans realize. I think they assume. But if you're assuming that Iowa women's basketball made money last year with Caitlin Clark in her senior season, you are wrong. Iowa women's basketball lost money last year with Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark made money.
She made money, but the Iowa women's basketball program was in the red.
Right.
Penn State wrestling, as great as it is in the red. It's a fact of life that a lot of people can accept. It doesn't take like more than 12 minutes to look up the numbers, okay? But they can't seem to accept it. And then when they're told, oh, no, that can't be true, it's not. And the bothersome part is because there's no TV contract or media contract for those sports, they aren't even close to making a profit. I mean, not even close. If they don't have football and to some extent men's basketball, they don't exist.
And it's okay if they don't make a profit.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
Sports should be there.
That's right.
To make a profit, and inherently. I mean, they can't run just like rivers of deficit money. That can't happen. You can't be $4 or $5 million under or whatever consistently and just expect the revenue, to be funded at consistent levels. And the sports cutting is going to come. Unfortunately, I think in programs that cannot afford the rev share over the next maybe 5 to 10 years, that's going to come. But there's a great argument about college sports being one of the I mean, it's not to the level of like the GI Bill or anything like that. But college sports is it's an important avenue to college for a lot of athletes, for a lot of students. So to lose that aspect of it, that's going to diminish enrollment and all of that kind. There's the ripple effect because you're extracting football's payment, and that's why I say football still has to be responsible. Basketball still have to be responsible for some of this. The NCAA, the conferences have to be responsible for some of this. Television, the networks can be responsible for some of this. There is money there. It's just the argument about the distribution of all this can't be decentralized. There's got to be some sort of overriding kind of non-arbitrary decision maker in there, like you said, who can get us to collective bargaining.
Right. Brett Yormark came out today, the Big 12 commissioner, and said he reiterated his support for the 5+11 college football playoff model, which would be the 5 conference champions making it and 11 at-large teams. We know there's been the power play, especially by the Big Ten and to some point the SEC, about having 4 automatic qualifiers each. What's been your thought about that?
Again, that's so tribal because it's the SEC is there. Greg Sankey had his PowerPoint where he said that. Wherever he got the old BCS, I didn't realize the BCS formulas were coming back because he brought up the Massey rankings and strength of record and all these sorts of things. I was like, great, cool, the BCS is back. Awesome, I loved it. But how the SEC over the last 5 years or 10 years or whatever the data states that they don't have their strength of record is better than that's all fine and good. We can re-argue that Big Ten won 5-1 in bowl games against the SEC. So that's just this like kind of pedantic arguments that keep going over and over and over again to the point that it comes back to me, they don't play the same number of conference games. That's where they have to start, and then the playoff format and on AQs and 5-11 or 5-4-3-2-1 or whatever the arguments are. Let's get everybody on the same schedule first. I think that's something that James Franklin has just pounded for how many years?
Yeah.
It was about the argument about conference games. I think simple little things like that can make those are just, to me, they're better places to start than working backward from a playoff model that people can't agree on because they didn't agree on something before that.
Right, exactly. When you look at last year, if you did 5 plus 11 last year, okay, you would have had 4 Big Ten teams in. 4 Big Ten teams would have made it, right? So there's your 4 right there. They just naturally made it. Notre Dame would have made it. And then from the SEC, you would have had 1, 2, 3. You would have had a minimum of 5 from the SEC and a 5+11.
Yeah, because you're looking at that 12, 13, 14, 15, 16
That's
range,
right.
And how many SEC teams were there?
Right, and you had
there were so many there, right?
Right, exactly. The ACC would have had 2, and the Big 12, they were on the border of 2. But the ACC would have had 3. Miami would have made it to go with SMU, Clemson. So the ACC would have had 3. The Big 12 would have had 1. And the SEC may have had 6 because Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Alabama probably all would have made it.
Yeah.
So just in a 5+11, the SEC makes out fine.
They wouldn't, even I think in a straight 16, just a 1 through 16 without automatic qualifiers, I think the SEC will be just fine, just because of reputation. I think even algorithms rate the SEC higher probably than any other conference.
Right.
Just over time and over data points. I don't even think it has to come down to an eye test. with the SEC. They're naturally going to be, because strength of schedule and that kind of thing, and size of those programs, everything benefits them. So the argument to me that they can retain 8 conference games and still be guaranteed 4, right, and then plus whatever you can get in the I guess that would be 3 at-large bids. I'm not seeing it necessarily. I would go to the 5+11 model. I think that's probably the better model for everybody. But I would come back to, I really just think everybody needs to play 8 or 9 conference. Don't care which one. 8, 9, whatever it is. Play 8 and then have a Big Ten SEC challenge.
It has to be the same.
If you're a crossover game, that's great. And then you get a couple of contract games, which everybody still needs. But it just has to be. It just has to be formatted. I think it's got to be good across. Otherwise, that argument it will continue and continue and continue.
Yeah, because the 5+11 model, the Big Ten would have 4, the SEC would have 6 in a 5+11. All right, the Big 12 would have suffered. They would have had 1. Arizona State would have been it. And the ACC would have had 3, and Boise State would be in with Notre Dame. That's from last year, just so everybody knows what the reference point is on that. I've been asked a lot on other shows when I've been the guest. Would you find yourself in the unfortunate seat right now? Right. About the expectations for Penn State. And I've said, look, I'd rather be around a program that has expectations than one that's hoping.
Oh, absolutely. This to me, I've been doing this for a little bit of time now, going back
yes,
to 99.
Yes, you have.
And this, to me, is probably the most anticipated season I can remember since really that 1999 season, with the program that they went into that year with, and the players, and LeVar Arrington on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and all that. I think that's phenomenal. I think the expectations, as players and coaches always say, we embrace them. They may do that through some gritted teeth at times, and it does lend itself to pressure. But going into this season, I think this is the most exciting Penn State football team that I can remember going into a season, at least, at minimum, with the roster and, the offseason work, changes they made, or not changes, but the off-season additions they made, the retention, the biggest part of that.
Yes.
The expectation should be around excitement to this season, and not necessarily kind of like, a clenched body about what if you don't get back to the semifinals or whatever.
Right. No, exactly. That's, again, there's a swirl around this. And not only that, but finally the whiteout game ends up being what the fans hoped the whiteout game would be. And what I've been baffled by that, Mark, over the last few years, that the whiteout game is everybody, it's a signature, it's a bucket list, the whole thing, and the networks don't treat it like that. I don't get it. Because Fox keeps taking good games and putting them on at noon instead of having the opportunity to white out.
Yeah. Well, that I don't know if there's been a Pennsylvania State legislator who's following that of the Ohio legislator who wants to make it just like a criminal offense to schedule Ohio State for, I don't remember what the number was, more than 3 big noon games or something like that.
They had 6 in a row last year.
Yeah, and that's clearly, I would be absolutely frustrated with that as a fan as well, no doubt. And when you're scheduling games versus scheduling the whiteout. I understand Penn State wanting to put the two together, best game and whiteout as their brand. And, Penn State, the whiteout brand certainly is important. But part of becoming, just having the Fox contract to begin with, and Fox choosing that noon path a couple of years ago, 21, I guess it was. Mm-hmm. When you're a good program and you've got those games, you have to finagle. You have to fight, I think, to try to put the two together, and it hasn't always worked for Penn State. I think in some cases maybe rightfully so. So it's really good. I think that this one just naturally seemed
Yeah.
Like, just don't screw this one up. You have an opportunity here. Fox, Fox can you can get Ohio State, Texas in your early draft, Michigan, Ohio State, and then with your other draft pick, I guess they chose the weekend of the Penn State, Ohio State game. You've got three natural things. This is a perfect date for Penn State, Oregon in the whiteout. Don't overthink that one.
Yeah.
And it was good. It was good that they didn't.
And by the way, let me say this about Fox so everybody understands. Mm-hmm. Who pays the most money? I mean,
yeah,
Fox pays. The reason Fox has this kind of power over it, they pay the most money. And no matter what sport you love, volleyball, wrestling, women's basketball, whatever, that money helps pay for a lot of sports along the way. So let's at least not always rag on them. There's a little bit more to it than people realize because they do pay.
First of all, Ohio State's got a $300 million athletic department.
Yeah, and a $37 million deficit.
To bite the hand, so to speak.
Yeah, and a $37 million deficit last year.
Yeah, exactly.
Mark, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us. When we're sitting here this time of the year, it's always great to sit down and talk with somebody like you.
I appreciate it. Great to talk to you too, Steve. I just wish we had a little more time for an off season.
Yeah, it would be nice to have a little off season somewhere. But you know what? We'll take advantage of what we can take, right?
Absolutely. Maybe in July.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it.
See you on the golf course. Thanks, Steve.
You too, pal. Mark Wogenrich, the outstanding Mark Wogenrich. Half hour brought to you by Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is because it's Brewers Outlet time. The beverage supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.